I'm Darcy Bakigart, and I'm here with Nikki Rudenberg, and we're in Montana, where it's awesomely snowing, but we're going to talk about how to stay out of the cold and stay fired up about teaching, and I'm really excited to talk Twitter.
Yeah, let's talk Twitter.
Why is Twitter a good thing for me to stay? Like, if the goal is for me to be energized and connected in my classroom, I just did not think of this thing that in my head was all social media, that would help me stay energized and connected in my classroom. But you convinced me.
I was right there with you. I've been on Twitter a little bit longer, since about 2013. And I was right there with you. I thought it was probably silly, and I didn't care what Kim Kardashian had for lunch.
No.
And as it turns out, you don't have to find that out because you just don't follow Kim Kardashian. And I think what a lot of teachers are finding is that Twitter is a really powerful place to get that real-time professional development and connection with peers, like-minded peers, some visual examples of what's happening in the classroom, right at your fingertips, easy to check from your phone, when you're standing in line at the grocery store or waiting in the dentist's office. It's a really powerful way to just jump in, see a little bit of this, a little bit of that, share a few things, and then jump out when you don't have the time anymore.
Last week, I spoke to a Bismarck, North Dakota teacher, Andrea, and we were talking about podcasts, but she also mentioned, she literally said, Twitter saved my teaching career. That she was feeling really burnt out, that she was feeling pretty disillusioned. I want to share this graphic. We've seen this before, and I know that the title of it says First Year Teachers' Attitudes Toward Teaching, but I think that this is cyclical both every single year and might also be somewhat indicative of like the length of your career as well. But what Andrea said was she was just feeling like she was down at that bottom where she was just feeling pretty disillusioned, but that by connecting with other, what you said, like-minded teachers and finding those people who were excited and passionate about teaching in a different way, that really rejuvenated her, and it's been something that has really saved her teaching career.
Absolutely, and I think I could echo that statement too. I don't know that it saved my career, but it certainly sent it in a different direction.
Oh.
You know, my teaching story was that I was the only K-1 teacher in a small rural school. And while I worked with wonderful colleagues, there were only 5 of us, full-time colleagues. And so and we didn't have, rural schools are such that we didn't have a staff lounge, and we didn't have common planning time because we sort of cycled through specials for our prep. And so isolation can really set in. And I found people on Twitter, and I found people at the time that I was available to interact with people. And so I could sit on my lunch break and scroll through Twitter and connect with people, or I could go home and find some people. And for me, I was also kind of unique in that I was one of the first people in my building at that time to start using technology with my students. I had one-to-one iPads, I had flexible seating, I was doing all these things that were very different from the rest of my colleagues. And troubleshooting some of the details that come along with that, there was nobody in my building who could give me quick tips for things. You know,
sure.
It's like, yeah, the bean bags are all over the place and we keep tripping on them. You know, how do I fix this? And it was someone on Twitter who had been using bean bags also that chimes in with, well, they need to have their own location in the room that they never move from. You know, you put a piece of tape on the floor, a beanbag sits on that tape, and we don't move them all over the place. They're planted. And so little things like that someone who doesn't have the experience with that can't help with.
Right.
That's what Twitter gave me. I found another kindergarten teacher in Billings, Montana, just a couple hours away from where I lived, who was one-to-one iPads, also had flexible seating.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, there's my sister. She and I became collaborators on Twitter, just sharing back and forth or asking those questions. Hey, we both are using Osmo with iPads. She would say one day it was, well, do you have to take the Osmo out of the case in order to use it? Yes, you do.
Yeah.
You know, things like that you just, you need that kind of help with. But there's also providing examples, work samples, and seeing other kids in other classrooms doing something. Sometimes a real quick, here's the activity we did today and here's a picture of us doing it, sparks some, oh, well, we could do that.
I'm a firm believer that good teaching is good teaching.
Yeah.
And the things that are good teaching in kindergarten and first grade are a lot of the same teaching strategies in 11th grade, 12th grade, and beyond. And so if you can separate the actual literal task and focus on the teaching strategy, you can learn from anyone.
Right.
And that's the other connection with this.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about Twitter because for me, this time of year, I find this time of the year, and maybe it's because I would go to work when it was dark, mm-hmm. and I come home when it's dark. This time of year, it was very easy. This first year teacher attitude very much resonates with how I felt this time of year, that it was that like just getting through the end of the semester. It was finals. Yeah. So there was usually a lot that I was grading, and it was really easy to just feel like I'm not accomplishing anything. I'm not very excited. Mm-hmm. And the thing that worries me the most about not being excited is if I'm not excited about being there every day, how are the kids going to remotely be excited about what we're doing? I needed some ways, and I have been really surprised by how much inspiration and just little sparks of ideas that I have gotten from Twitter.
Definitely. And I'd say for elementary school teachers, January and February are the cold months, and so we're dealing with indoor recess happening. We're struggling in and out of snow clothes. We've got colds. We're sick. We've got all that. And then for K2 teachers especially, February hits and you have Groundhog Day, the 100th day of school, Valentine's Day, President's Day. You have all these holidays that it's part of your curriculum to celebrate and to honor.
Oh, sure.
And they're just back to back, back to back, back to back. And February, for being the shortest month, has so much crammed in there that you're having to get ready for. Not to mention you're feeling this worn out, tired. I noticed last year when I started working as a coach that February was the month nobody wanted me around. Nobody wanted to work with me. They didn't want to talk about doing anything new. They were just trying to get through the month.
Just trying to maintain.
Yeah, just trying to maintain. Not to mention, your end of the quarter, your assessments,
you're testing. Also sick. Mm-hmm. Yes, like all of that
stuff. There's a lot of reason for this. And so I think Twitter helps us find our people, helps us get to a place where we know that we're not alone, that there are other people out there expressing the same frustration. But what I love about teachers on Twitter is we keep it positive. There's just this sort of understanding that you're allowed to acknowledge the frustrations of the work, but you're also supposed to be open to the positive solution.
Sure.
And it's where people will go to cheer one another on or give each other a little bit of motivation and some kind words to get through a day that might be more exhausting. Your people are on Twitter. And so that's why I highly recommend getting there, because you'll find somebody who will elevate your mood almost immediately.
One of the things Nikki was the reason why I decided, I was like, fine, I'll try Twitter. But one of the biggest reasons was your advice that you create the list by just following the people that you want to follow. How do you find people to follow?
Well, I think I found Twitter at a conference. I went to a tech summit, and they were having a little conference at this tech summit to get people on Twitter, and they were awarding an award for the Twitter Ninja. And that sounded like fun. So I was, in the spirit of being at a conference and being open-minded, I got on Twitter. And so I ended up following most of the people at that conference. Every conference you go to will have their own hashtag. And it will either be the name of the conference or some other phrase associated with the conference. And so I really started just following that conference hashtag and all of the people who were at that conference. And I got lucky because there were a lot of really amazing people at that conference sharing things on Twitter. And that was really how I got my start. So I found a couple of key people who were active Twitter users in Montana. Okay. For me, connecting with other Montana teachers was really important.
Sure.
And so that was really where I focused a lot of my energy. And so what I found was that conference led me to our state educational chat, Montana Ed Chat, MT Ed Chat. Every state I think has one.
We do. I don't know how active the North Dakota chat is, but the North Dakota hashtag that is pretty active is hashtag innovative ND. So a lot of people, if you're doing something in your classroom, a lot of people will share different strategies. And then we do have a lot of people who are on like the rural ed chat or hashtag rural education.
Yeah. So I started there by going to Montana Ed Chat and following all of the teachers that were there.
Okay.
And finding all of the Montana teachers. And then once you're on Twitter, you'll get people that recommend, Twitter will recommend people to you, and people will follow you when they see you. But if we want to, we'll go back and share the screen and just kind of go on to someone's profile, and we can kind of go through what we're looking for in a profile. So we'll click on me. So Twitter is the place where you get to brag about your accomplishments, and you get to talk about in real quick bullet sentence what you're interested in. So I have NBCT, which means National Board Certified Teacher. Okay. Anybody who has NBCT in their handle, I follow, because that person has put a lot of effort and time into becoming a practiced and professional teacher. So I want to see what they're sharing and what they have to say. I have my role as a tech coach. I follow other tech coaches. I have where I work, and I have a couple of hashtags for different hashtags that I like to follow, like the PBS Digital Innovator. I work with Brain Pop, or I used to work with Brain Pop quite a bit. So I follow anybody that also is interested in Brain Pop. I also put in things like Microsoft Innovative Educator. That's a training I went through and a certification I have. And so if I follow that hashtag, I can talk to other people who have been through that training. They can give me real quick answers to questions using Microsoft tools. And then I've got Montana Ed Chat, because I'm a co-moderator of that chat. And so people can know that that's a chat that I'm a part of, that they can join that. Also, you'll see followed by other people that you may know will be down here in your recommendations. And looking at followers and following, if somebody's got a lot of followers, chances are other people have seen, hey, they're saying something worth following.
Sure. But there's value there.
Right. When I get a follow request, I do quickly look at this summary to see where they're from. I'll get requests from people trying to sell things, or from companies that, want me connected. And I don't follow those unless it's an ed tech company that I believe in their product, or I think I might be interested in their product. I'm not interested in somebody who wants me to pay them to run my social media feed or anything like that. So I'm looking for, are they a teacher? Where are they from? Are they following any of the same threads that I'm interested in? Do they have a profile picture? As soon as you're on Twitter, put a profile picture up there. A lot of people will not take you seriously and follow you back if you don't have a profile picture. We want to see who you are. It doesn't have to be your face. If you want it to be your hand,
your dog,
that's fine. But spend some time here describing who you are, so that people are motivated to follow you and hear your story.
Okay.
So Darcy mentioned TweetDeck. I would highly recommend downloading TweetDeck and getting it linked to your Twitter account because of the organization. A lot of people will go to Twitter, and because it moves so quickly and there are people posting all the time, I had someone tell me once that Twitter is like a river. It's just constantly moving, and you jump in and you grab what you can while you're in the river. You're going to miss some things, but it always comes back again. Anything that was cool today, if you missed it, chances are next week somebody will have retweeted it, and it'll show back up in your feed again. So that anxiety that comes with, I can't read it all. I'm never done reading my feed. Just get rid of that. Read what you have time to read while you're looking at it, and don't worry about finishing the feed, because you can't.
And so this takes a pretty different mindset than some of us are used to. It's not like reading an article or reading a book where you're going to finish something. This is kind of when you have time, when you're going, you can kind of scroll through. The other thing that I liked that I learned about, and maybe this is kind of where you were going, I liked that I could also just search for things. Like I can, so then if that's what you want to look at, if like you're stuck, like, right, you're in this January doldrums and you're like, I know that I need to be doing more authentic learning, or I want to do more with my iPads, or I want to do more with something. You can search for some of those hashtags of how to do that. And this has been a whole other thing, because when I saw hashtags, like, right, this was part of the reason why I didn't do Twitter. Because to me, what I think of when I think of hashtags is the Jimmy Fallon, Justin Timberlake skit where they're like, hashtag I ate like blah, 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 blah. And so I always thought it was cheesy
stupid
and just stupid. Yes. And then it was becoming just this thing. So I did not understand, and I still don't totally understand, I'll be honest, like, because there's so much to learn of like what hashtags are really out there. Do you have any tips on that of like, how do you hashtag? How do you search hashtags? Like, how do I use a hashtag really in Twitter?
So a hashtag is like a category, or it's like a tag. And so you think about when you go into a library and you find books by looking at the spine of the book, and there's a little code within that spine of the book that take you to the book you're looking for. And a hashtag is sort of like that. It's a key concept. And so some people will overdo the hashtags in their posts, and it's important to take a hashtag and when you write a nicely written tweet, the hashtag is sort of in the flow of the tweet. It's not like a big, huge chunk of tweets at the end. But some people are trying to get their message out to as many different tagged channels as they can. So right here at this tweet, you're looking at the hashtag SEL, which is social emotional learning. So this is everybody who is writing about the concept of social emotional learning. And I think that's definitely a topic of interest for teachers. And it might be a place where you went to post a question or give an example of how you were teaching social emotional learning. It might be a place where somebody shares a resource, shares a website. So if you really want to think about that concept and how it fits into your class, typing that into the search, either in TweetDeck or just in Twitter. You know, you can do it in your phone, go to search in your phone and type that in. And anybody who has added that hashtag to their tweet will suddenly just be filtered into that column on TweetDeck.
Okay.
My TweetDeck has many different columns, and each column is for a particular hashtag that I want to follow that topic.
So if you want to if you have 5 minutes and you're like, I just really want to see what's going on in
So Montana Ed Chat is my main column, because that's the one I follow and the people in it that follow. And so that's the first one I'll look at. And that's how I keep up with those people out there that I care about what they're saying. You know, there are people in Montana teachers that I want to hear what they're sharing. So I don't miss it if they've added Montana Ed Chat to this. And I get to see what they've shared. So I keep that one. I'm a tech coach. So there's the ET Coach Network, the ISTE, so I fall on that. Matt Miller, the Ditch That textbook, he has that Ditch Book hashtag. A lot of great things are being shared on that hashtag. When I was teaching, I followed KinderChat, hashtag KinderChat, and hashtag FirstChat. Both of those were very busy columns where you get lots of things, and it was a good place to put in a quick question. You know, what are your favorite phonemic awareness activities?
Sure.
You know, or what are you using this week to teach about Martin Luther King? Those kinds of quick questions, and honestly, within seconds, people will respond with pictures and ideas and images.
That empowerment and that spark of inspiration, and then that feeling of, oh, like there are other people who care about this and who are doing this.
And one reason TweetDeck is a nice one is you'll notice it's not moving right now. And so the people who feel overwhelmed by the movement, you know, if you go column by column and just scroll through those columns,
there's less constant.
Less constant movement. You don't feel so awkward diving right in.
There's actually times when these people get together and chat. What is that like?
And I think that it's a concept that it's not for everyone. You know?
Okay.
And first of all, I tell teachers all the time, try it, give it a little bit of time. If it's just too hard to navigate, you can certainly get a lot out of Twitter just going at it from your own page.
And just dipping in whenever you have time.
The power for me in chat, when I found Montana Ed Chat, is that I was able to connect and have conversations with other teachers. And I really began to rely on their feedback and their input into what I was thinking about. Not to mention, they would say positive things that made me feel good. and who doesn't need somebody to go like, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. You're amazing.
Instead of what unfortunately we do hear from time to time, why are you doing that?
Right.
Why are you trying that?
Yeah. So Montana Ed Chat meets every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Montana Standard Time. And we are, as I said before, I'm a co-moderator, which means me and 2 other teachers show up every time, and we schedule 6 questions to be tweeted out over the hour. And we write it as Q1, stands for question 1. They're general questions. We always have a topic that we follow. So last week we were tweeting about innovation in education. And so I wrote 6 general questions that if you were an educator, you could speak to, whether you were in the classroom or you were an administrator or you were a coach, you could come up with an answer to that question. And we send them out at 8:05, 8:15, 8:25, 8:35, a new question shows up in the Montana Ed Chat feed. And then anybody who logs in at that time watches just that feed and responds to the questions. And so they would respond to Q1 with A1, meaning answer to question 1, and they would come up with their answer to that question. And if Darcy keeps scrolling here, she'll probably run into our chat.
That's what I was kind of...
As it shows up here, you're going to see remnants of our chat that people were on. Last week, it was exciting. So you see here, there's Travis Niemeyer, and it says A6. That means answer 6. He's answering the 6th question. And then he's used the hashtag MTEdChat at the bottom of his chat. He's also added his own little hashtags in there too. And so while you're participating in the chat, you're watching the responses of your peers, but you're also crafting your own answers to these chats. My job as a moderator is to make sure everybody gets a response. And that's what the 3 moderators and I are really focused on. The really good and active chats have a moderator that makes sure that people get acknowledged and makes sure that we give somebody a favorite, or we retweet what they say, or we respond to what they say. Here you can see Krista has retweeted my question and included that in the answer. She's done that so that anybody can see where we are in the chat and join in at any time. Now, this is not just Montana teachers. We have teachers from all over the country and the world who see our chat moving and see people talking and join in.
Oh, cool.
You don't have to be there right at 8 o'clock. You can show up at 8:10. We don't count tardies. But you could see even right now, Darcy sees what my question 6 was, which was, what have you taken from the chat tonight that inspired you to innovate? What are your next steps going to be? Darcy could read all of these tweets right now, and she could respond to that question.
Oh, sure. If it was something that sparked in my brain, like it's not, the clock doesn't run out.
Right. The conversation continues here.
Okay.
And then we encourage anybody who is part of the chat to continue to add that Montana Ed Chat tag to their tweets throughout the week, so that people can come back here and connect with those same people and get great ideas. Last week was cool because we had some students from a local university hop on the chat.
Oh, nice.
They had been told by their professor and encouraged by their professor. I think maybe they were getting points for participating. And so they jumped on and joined us and were part of the conversation, which the more people, the faster it goes, and the more side conversations you can have. Carrie was there. She chummed in from Idaho, Deanna, you'll see, she's a Montana teacher, but she's currently in New Zealand right now.
Oh,
and
wow.
she just packed up her whole family and moved to New Zealand for the year and is teaching over there. We're still connected to her though, because she joined us on Montana Ed Chat. And so that's what I mean with a real community developed. The more chats, if you make it a point to go to a chat a week, or if you like the Ditch Chat, or if you like other chats like that, you can really develop your relationships with the same people who go to that chat over and over again.
And I'm noticing, I cannot believe that I did not have this one on
You
here.
didn't have our chat.
I know, like this was like, I don't know how, and I think I thought that Minnesota was you, which is really dumb. But we're in an M sandwich in North Dakota.
Yeah.
So while we're right here, I want you to plug that again. And your Tuesdays
at 8 p.m. Montana Standard Time. And I'm a co-moderator. You'd also look for Jessie Anderson or Krista Anderson. The three of us started as classroom teachers when we got on the chat. Now we're all in leadership positions. Jessie's a coach for Better Lesson. Krista's an administrator in Dixon, Montana, and then I work for Montana PBS. We've gotten so busy with our own lives that we bring in guest moderators.
Oh, cool.
We have other teachers who are part of the chat come and help us. And so this week, Rachel Marker, who's a teacher in Bozeman, is going to be guest moderating for us. And that's really fun to have someone new moderate for us. They write the questions, they schedule them out, and connect with people that way. And then, you know, if I happen to, even though if I'm busy, I can still pop in and say hi to everybody, but that's how we keep the community, not the same people over and over again too.
Okay, so I will post the link to this spreadsheet in the video description. The other thing that I like, and this is just another little plug for the tweet deck, I set a goal for myself to try to be involved in Twitter, but there are whole days, like where you were saying, like you don't feel like you have to read the whole feed. There are sometimes where I'll go 2 or 3 days without checking Twitter. But for my job and for kind of what I was doing, I was like, well, I still kind of want to have a presence. One of the nice things about TweetDeck is you can schedule a tweet if you write it in here, and so you can set it up. I could see, like, there are plenty of teachers who use Twitter as a way to communicate with parents, and they have a class hashtag, and I could see, and I've never done this at the high school level of doing this for my students, or like I said, I'm relatively new to Twitter, but I could see a lot of possibilities here in being able to schedule tweets as a way to communicate with parents and or students, depending on your level. So also think of that. Granted, now anyone who's on Twitter can see this tweet, so you're probably not going to tweet out classified information. But there are plenty of teachers who have a class Twitter account. Was that something that you did?
I did.
In your classroom?
Yeah, my kids and I had a shared class account, and we had a Twitter friend every week, and that Twitter friend would use our class iPad and our class account, and mostly they took pictures of the weather graph as we were graphing weather that day and sent it out there. But every now and then we would go through, and that class account followed other classes only.
Okay.
And kids were highly supervised when they were writing those tweets, and you know, I really monitored that. But we would go through that Twitter feed and look at what other classes were doing. It was a wonderful way to talk about weather and climate, and kids would be like, hey, our tables look like that too, you know, just talk about building empathy. And
a built-in way to talk about also just digital citizenship and safety, and like those are things that we do talk to our students about. But if you're actively in a social media account where you are, like, there's a real authentic, we talk so much about authentic learning and real world learning. What more authentic experience do you want? The students are publishing for an actual audience. And so there's the publishing question. So again, English teacher hat on, but there's also just that digital citizenship and safety of like, how do you navigate and how do you keep yourself safe. So there are some other curriculum advantages, but our focus today was on dealing with this, on addressing this. Like, how do we get from January here, like, how do we get through this slump, and how do we stay fired up? I firmly believe that, like I said at the beginning, if I'm not excited about what we're doing in the classroom, I cannot expect for me 16, 17, 18-year-olds to be excited about learning how to use a semicolon if I'm not excited. And the longer, we've talked quite a bit about building relationships in our classrooms and having positive relationships with those kids. And I know for me personally, when I was in this disillusionment chunk, my relations, like being able to have a good relationship with students, certainly suffered. I don't think that I was the best at just seeing and hearing my students either. So like there's this weird thing that the more fired up I was just as a teacher in general, as well as what I was teaching specifically, I feel like I connected to kids more.
Absolutely. And I think Twitter gives you people, you know, it helps you find your community and helps you find a community, you know, especially if you're in a school like I was where you really didn't have one.
No kidding.
Or finding someone else who's doing what you're doing, whether that's teaching a specific grade level or teaching a certain strategy, finding someone else, because it's just having another person to share ideas with. Even if you never say the words, boy, I'm in disillusionment, but you just put something out there and have someone respond, that's going to fire you up, you know. And I think that it's worth giving it a shot, you know. And like I said, you take baby steps and you just do a little bit at a time to find a couple of people you want to follow. Follow Darcy and I. We're on there a lot. Find a chat. You're welcome to be a lurker. And a lurker is someone who doesn't participate. And it's just somebody who watches.
Who reads.
Who reads it. And if you want to throw in a favorite every now and then to let us know you're watching, that's fine. If you're not comfortable sharing or interacting, nobody expects you to. You can watch and learn as much as you want. I would highly encourage you to move out of lurking and into participating and collaborating at a certain point, because you will get more out of it if you start having conversations with people. And if you start participating in conversations, because that's where you get a really high level amount of support from teachers. But you can just look at it for a little bit and then close it up when it becomes too overwhelming.
Get that little bit of spark. So this is all about just staying fired up. It's cold and dark outside, so how do we bring that light and that refreshment to what we're doing inside with our kiddos? So thanks for taking the time to talk Twitter.
Of course. Thanks for coming to Montana so I could talk to you about Twitter.
This was just a well-timed thing. So if you want to follow Nikki, there are also a lot of great organizations that you can follow, like PBS,
at Montana PBS.
At Montana PBS, or PBS Teachers shares a lot of great resources. So find some of those people, some of those organizations that really help spark ideas in your classroom and stay fired up for those kiddos. So thanks for joining us. Let us know how Twitter goes for you, and we'll see you next time.